Before we get started, I just wanted to kind of just review our meeting norms and expectations. We have a lot to cover.
We are recording and we are,
Okay, good.
took a little minute.
So we want to just kind of keep our meetings and discussions to the agenda. And if we have other topics we need to discuss, we can always put them on future agendas. I'm gonna try to maintain a speakers list, so if we're having a discussion and everyone wants to talk, please raise your hand and I'm gonna write you down so we can do this in an orderly fashion. And I'm also gonna ask that you refrain from sidebar conversations, as we're all prone to do, because the owl picks that up and we really want it to be a clear recording. We're adhering to policies set forth in BEDG and RSA 91A, and we follow Robert's rules of parliamentary procedure, basically to keep us in order during the meeting and guide us when formal recommendations are required. We're gonna make sure we always use our SNU emails for communication. And I will send out a reminder, as Greg suggested, when I send the agenda out about the meeting and asking you to just confirm to me that you'll be here in person. So we make sure we have a quorum. Does anybody have any questions? No? I thought you were raising your hand. I was like, what did you do? Oh. All right, so we're gonna go into our agenda and we are going to accept the prior meeting minutes. Now, we have to do November 29th of 2023. Is there something?
Yeah, so I have an amendment to those minutes and I'll pass it around and I'll read it as well. So what you see on the top is what's in the current presented. Yeah. You can keep that. So the amendment would change the current draft minutes to read: Committee Chair Shannon Gascoigne asked which of the two options presented is favored by each member. Those two options were a renovation addition, option 1, and a bill to suit, option 2. Each committee member favored option 2, bill to suit. Discussion ensued regarding additional information and considerations to be presented. Mr. Fritz noted that of the two options presented, he favored option 2 more than option 1, but believes that we need to examine and present alternative costs and options. So that would be the only amendment that I would offer to those minutes.
So can I make the motion?
So I'll make the motion to accept the minutes with that amendment.
Okay, does anyone have a second?
A second.
Greg.
All right, so any discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, motion passes.
I was not present for
He
that
wasn't
meeting,
there,
so-
yeah.
So he abstained, okay. Does she have, do you know all our names and stuff for purposes? All right, so we had
I
John.
can set it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Roger.
Interesting, no worry. Okay, and the next set of minutes.
John, you have some John.
From May 9th. Did I print those out? I sent those to you in a previous packet of things. But if anyone needs to see them, I do have one copy here. So we.
We'll scan it, take a turn here. Real quick.
Should I make more copies?
I can probably read it faster than you want us there. Maybe it's fast.
Good business.
There's a copy of that.
Good business.
Same paper, I know paper's a big issue here, right? So.
That's why I only printed one. And they're also on the website as draft minutes, so we're always free to review the
Right.
previous month stuff before the meeting as well, this way you're.
Yeah, they should
I'll put that on my reminder too.
I'll make the motion to accept this, what's the date on the minutes?
May 9th.
The May 9th minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Are you in favor?
We wait.
I was reading, I'm sorry.
Okay, are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, did you want to see, were you here on? May?
I looked at him before today.
Oh, okay, all right, so any discussion? No, all those in favor? All right, passes
Aye.
unanimously. All right, minutes are all approved. We're gonna move on to our board update.
Oh, sorry, I'm doing that. So, I don't have anything great for this. With the last meeting, we voted, 2 meetings ago, I guess we had a meeting, we voted to. Put the same Wilkins project on the warrant. More stuff to go, most of it between here and there, is like we on hearings and whatnot. And that passed 4-1, and anything else, Shannon, that's significant for this group?
Well, we received an update on the current AMS work, but I'm assuming
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna-
can move on.
Roger will cover that when we get to that
Okay.
portion of the agenda, so that was really the.
All right, that's the big
The
one.
big news for building and grounds.
Okay,
Is
and then
that-
at your retreat, you appointed Jeannie Lute.
Correct. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yep, at our retreat, we appointed Jeannie Lute to this committee. She'll be joining us hopefully at our next meeting, as we had one member of the committee who moved and another member of the committee whose work commitments was making it a little difficult to get here regularly.
We also discussed leaving an open rec, as it were, for this committee, so we could have an odd number. Not sure what was that on that, what do we
Yeah,
end on that?
Decided to wait and see kind of what we needed.
Okay.
Tom was waiting to hear back from a couple of other applicants, and I
Okay.
don't know where that.
It's hard to see an even number of people on the list
Yeah,
for now,
that's
but
okay.
with your good whip skills, we'll be able to get 6-0 vote for
Okay.
sure.
All right, so our next agenda item is the Amherst workday update. Roger.
Okay, everything has been really going good over at AMS. We've been meeting monthly still with our monthly meetings with the project team. We actually met this morning. We opened it up for Zoom, and some of us are in person over there that can be. Steve and I took the opportunity to walk the site. Inside, the windows are in all 12 of the classrooms, and I must tell you, seeing it from the outside is a huge impact, and actually being in the room, standing at the window it's amazing. It's a great window that we installed there. To remind everybody, they're two awning style windows with a little lever. They open on the side. They're really user friendly as far as just the turn of the lever, and they open. Really nice sized window looking out. It's like an enormous living room window. It's really beautiful. It's nice. The metal panels still need to go on underneath them, but they are on site there. We had asbestos abatement that took place last week. We were abating anything that the construction workers were touching within the building to make sure that it was removed if it was touched. We found that there was spots there was joint compound and the sheetrock above above two fire doors and two window locations on the exterior. So that has been all removed and abated, which is great. The skylight, I know Steve updated you guys last time at the board meeting. Our cowl wall skylight is still on track to be installed Columbus Day weekend. We have EEI just confirming that date, but we're still on schedule for Columbus Day as far as we know. We did have to install a flexible sprinkler head on the first floor ceiling, so we're just waiting for approval from their sprinkler engineer and our just town inspector here as well. So everything's going really good with EEI. If you went over there right now, they're taking the roof off, putting the new roof on. We have a crane coming this afternoon so that they can install the steel beams that will help support the rooftop unit. Crane should be out of there by 4 o'clock this afternoon, and then we're on schedule for the rooftop unit actually being set Monday. So Monday they'll come in with another crane and they'll set the rooftop unit on top of the roof there. Duct guys are working inside, ceiling guys are working, the electricians are removing the old Romex and installing new wicks for the ceiling lights. We also have our electrician in there installing the new clock system and messaging system in there. And then we're working with our IT department to install the new audio enhancement in these 12 classrooms as well. We're trying to get everybody in there, all trades to get out of above the ceiling before the actual ceiling tiles get dropped in. We're just trying to prevent from a ceiling tile going in and then us having to go back and install stuff. So we're coordinating that with the contractors, and that's going really well. And then the only item we have left is that we are responsible for cleaning the flooring in these 12 classrooms, but we're only at the end of July right now. But I bring this up in every meeting to just make sure that we have an ample amount of time to get our staff in there to do the floors. And what I mean by that, it's just stripping them down and applying floor finish so that they have that nice shiny floor when everybody walks in. Logistics plan has been working really well over there. EEI is very on top of it. Like I said, we have a crane coming today, but we also have a special services program going on over there. So we're just coordinating entering and exits with EEI and what we have going on the grounds to make sure that everybody is safe, and that is going really well. And we ask this every time as well, is everything on schedule? And we're assured that everything other than the skylight is on schedule right now.
Talk about painting the classroom.
Yes, so, we did carry a little bit of a contingency with this. So we were able to pick up painting the entire, construction area other than the new movable wall that we just installed. So the classrooms will be painted as well. It was only included in the project, they only included painting the areas of the window and the unit ventilator, but we wanted to expand that scope, and obviously it'll be a big impact once you go into those rooms with everything being painted. So I have been working with approval from administration, I've been working with, as far as using that contingency. Kristen has been our color selection. I help coordinate colors, but I do not pick colors, so just so we're all clear on that. But she's been,
That was gonna be my question.
yes, yes. I help coordinate it to make sure we're on track, but I'm definitely not the color guy. But she's been doing a great job over there. We've been taking the samples and each selection, we kind of hold it up to see what that big impact on the end is.
You wanna talk about, we talked about this morning, the covering ceiling thing, I don't know what it was, but
Help me out a little bit more.
remember they're gonna do the additional work to get rid of.
Oh,
the-
yes. Yes, thank you. So
It's too technical for me, but.
the speaker system, it's part, yes, speaker system. So if you went into middle school's old classrooms, because they were built in 1972, they have a retrofit clock, speaker, phone, light switch, thermostat housing that is there. Over the years, the phone has been removed from that. We're relocating the thermostat. We're obviously installing a new clock system. So working with EEI, we found that we're blanking that actual clock off with a nice just finished blank over it, and they're going to install a ceiling intercom system in the ceiling so that we're removing it from the wall. And it's very antiquated. I will say, and they'll agree with it, is companies aren't going to offer stuff unless it's in their best interest for them on the project. So I'm assuming that there's difficulty just rerouting the speakers, rerouting the thermostats to this location. Obviously going to be a little bit more work for them, but finer finished look for everybody. So we're excited about that, and they're going to carry that speaker cost in their end of it without us seeing any upcharge for contingency.
So what you're gonna see when you walk in, you're gonna see a classroom with new lights, new air circulation, a new FM system, a new notification system, a new window, and new painted walls. It's going to be, and the cabinetry and the casement before. So you're gonna see, it's going to enhance the student experience, not just the comfort, which is very important, but also the receiver of, content through the FM system. So it really is going to be an updated, well-planned, well thought out, well-designed new room. For 12 new classrooms that are gonna be significantly updated, and they're gonna be watertight too. I can't forget that.
That's huge, yeah.
So,
I have one question. Who is gonna be control of all these electronics?
We are facility staff.
Okay. That to me is important, because teachers love to go over and as you all know.
To be clear, they'll have access to turn the light switch on and off dimming capability. They will not have access to the program behind the scenes of what makes that system work.
Okay.
Big thing that we work with Control Technologies, that's the actual controls contractor, is to make sure that this control system, because we're removing 12 unit ventilators. I live in this program, so for me, this was really important that we picked it up, and we did. Is that we are not running our own control system for this portion of the building. It's tied into our network that we created of our existing control systems.
Okay.
So it's part of one. What you'll find is sometimes when schools go through construction projects is there's not enough money to pick the whole control up into one program, so you're running two different types of systems for one building. We're not doing that here. We picked it up into all one system.
It's good.
Yes. That's part of John's question of who's controlling behind the scenes, that's HVAC behind the scenes. Is what I'm talking about.
And as we move through the building with the updates to each section of the building, then it just keeps tying into the.
Yeah, it keeps tying in, that, exactly, it does, and that's where it goes back, is when we installed this control system, we made sure we installed an open option system. So it's not proprietary and we're only locked into one vendor. We have multiple vendors that can service our control system with which we want. It's just, you want as many people to be able to service it, because that gives us more of an offering of, if we go out to bid, people being able to service our equipment.
Very smart.
So it's good, and it's that way, not only in Amherst, we did that everywhere for all of our districts.
Anybody have any other questions?
I do. When people change the wiring around, is that on the CAD? Are we getting updated CAD for that so we know where things were, or is it easy enough to find it later on if we need to look at the ceiling tiles?
They will give us updated drawings for what they have done on the controls end of it, but EEI isn't changing anything on the schematic end. They're removing the Romex, but they're not changing how that Romex was fed. If it was from A to B, they're changing from Romex to MC, A to B.
Okay, perfect. And then are they working 5 days a week here on this?
We are, actually, no, they have been working weekends as well.
7 or 6?
It's been 6, they've been working the Saturday,
Awesome.
but it's only picked up as that individual trade needs it. I think last weekend was duck guys needed to be here Saturday, so we had the duck guys there.
And the last question is, are there any upcoming milestones that we can tell if we're falling behind on schedule, or is it like every day is scheduled so we know right away if we're falling behind?
I get a 3-week outlook every 3 weeks, and I'm making sure that they're on track with that. We're also meeting with them, and it's been a very upfront, honest relationship. We're asking them, are we on time? And we're getting we're hearing that we're not, and we're assuming that that's the truth, and they were very upfront, although we were pushing for the cow wall product way back in December. Matt hated that phone call to me to have to tell me that cow wall product was delayed after we've been reviewing it, so.
One of the nice things about this story, Roger, is that it shows that the contractors that you've chosen to do this work, do quality work on budget and on schedule, and it gains credibility with some of the other companies we want to do other work for our district, so that's really important. You know, it's going well. I'm glad to hear that, you know, it's being tracked accurately.
So what's added, and the only reason why we can do this and this officially in these 9-10 weeks is because the board agreed in December. We had the money cash on hand when we talk about future projects. It really is a December sign on. So you order this, because when you're doing a 9-week or 10-week sprint in the summer, you can't wait till the March meeting and order the big rooftop unit. It's gonna be ready to, even with the December, we're not gonna be finished because of the skylight. So just imagine if we waited for the town to vote to appropriate these funds in July 1. You really have to do this in December when you have a 10-week timeline, when you're so short.
Yeah.
So they can, or, 'cause remember, we did the board action item to approve this, I think it really was December. I don't even think it was January. And then I think you texted Roger that night, so you texted EEI the next day.
For some reason that.
Yeah.
So you could get the order in to have guarantee for the roof, it was more rooftop unit and all that stuff than it was a skylight, just to be fair, the pressure was rooftop. So it's cash on hand, we had $1.7 million on hand in December, because we couldn't have done it, fingers crossed, March, are we getting any money, or we having fund balance, so you really wouldn't sleep then,
Couldn't do it till.
can't, so. A project, a short-term 10-week sprint is a December commitment, it's not a March.
For a summer start, just be clear, for a summer start,
Exactly.
December decisions are important.
Right, so you can do, what you just said happened because they started in December, they plan and order everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't raise my hand, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not good at that.
Robert is gonna be very mad at you.
I am so not good at that.
I just had, you know, that's okay, I just have a quick question about the asbestos abatement, so was that in scope of the contract already? It had already been identified, so we're aware for future projects exactly what is
Yes.
needed for abatement and everything.
Exactly, yeah, we were not aware, we had no data of the drywall joint compound actually having any asbestos in it. Looking at the HERA documents, there was nothing that called it out, that's why we contracted an IH to test all of these areas that they were touching. If they're not touching the wall and they're not going through it with ductwork or electrical, it isn't getting abated.
Right.
Part of the scope was just anything they touch within the building that they're passing through, that's friable, that becomes airborne.
Right.
With the asbestos abatement too, is we went above and beyond, Asbestos abatement does not call for air monitoring outside of the abatement zone. But because we have facility staff and we had limited programs going on in there, we had additional monitoring going on outside of those zones just to ensure everybody's safety. Just because we were occupied, but again, the DES doesn't require it, but because we're occupied, we always want to make sure we're above and beyond what's requested.
We appreciate that, Roger. Anybody else have anything for Roger? Any questions? All right, our next item, larger scope of work at AMS. So, and we also have financing options, so I'm thinking these are kind of connected. As you know, I know you've talked about what our next phases are going to be.
Yes.
Do you want to just give us a quick, like, just run through that, and then I think Amy might have the update on.
So I, at one of the meetings, was tasked with redoing the CNA CIP. I have the first 3 years done, so I don't know if we wanna look at that and that starts the conversation. I don't know if this is, Roger needs to work a little bit longer on this for a little while here, or if we wanna at least share it.
So just to nuance that a little bit, Roger, you have more than that done. You just don't have the specific projects
Yeah, I
broken
guess.
out for the smaller amounts.
You're correct, I guess.
So you actually have more done than what you're saying.
Yes,
He doesn't
she
have
is
it perfect,
correct.
I think is what he.
What's that?
He doesn't have it perfect. is
It's
that-
not.
Fixed, but I think it probably would be useful to share, just.
Yeah,
And caveat that it is still in draft form, but this is gonna help you have a visual to see. How a pay-as-you-go plan would work over the next. While you've got it scoped out, probably through FY.
So, what would you like?
I think I just need whatever
What?
the screen.
Let's see,
It looks like this is, it's this board right here.
yeah, I'm getting ready for you.
Amy, do you mind if I ask you a question while Ron is
Yeah.
setting up? So you just
Nope.
mentioned pay as you go. Do
Yeah.
we have updated estimates from EEI to kind of work from, or we
No,
go with what they
I-
had last year?
I pushed back on Mike a couple of times. They're trying to take everything we added in contingency
Yeah.
to make it part of the project. I don't have final numbers from DEI net, but I have placeholders there, but they're just need to confirm on
Yeah,
that.
we have
Okay.
big round numbers in here.
So we're
but-
working on that.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
But what he's done is he's scoped out, potential funding plan. As well as where to put the different segments of the roofs that need to be replaced. As well as additional projects that we still have to keep going, because we can't always spend money on those.
Right,
Anybody know how to get me to?
Yeah, I'll take it. Let's go.
Thanks.
And
That's better.
while Roger's doing that, just as an aside, every
Is that you?
year, we need to,
No, I should be, this
complete
is,
capital improvement plan, request form to the town of Amherst for both Mohegan and Amherst. So I use this draft document to send these, projects to the town.
You want me to
They
do
don't
it and I'll just
require
project it?
Projects that are over 75,000, so. But those
What do
have
you
been submitted for both.
I can plug in and you can
That'd be good.
send me that document.
There's no
Share it with-
format, it's just.
Is it also work?
We actually have a form.
Oh, there's one.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right,
Yep,
okay.
so we have, we submitted 20 forms between everything and Amherst, because it goes from
Yeah,
FY 26 to FY 31.
has there been any pushback on any of that, or is it kind of a check the
They've only
box?
been submitted, and then there'll be a series of meetings and discussion.
The town holds a meeting, not,
It's actually a committee of, town.
So where is it?
I just emailed it to you, I just sent you a new, link.
And I used to be on the committee, I'm no longer on the committee, I submit with Roger.
I see.
we appointed board reps at our
Yeah,
organizational meeting.
that's legit.
in-
Yeah.
Okay. very
Yeah, we
good.
just haven't met yet.
Am I on that?
No, I
Okay,
think it's
good.
Tom and, but I think it's
Jason or
me.
you?
Yeah, but I haven't seen anything
Right,
You got
yet about it. The town organizes the meeting.
that's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
so
thinking.
that part is right, but we're all
Perfect.
involved, it'll, yeah. I think Tom and Jason served last
They
year.
did, yeah.
So A, B, C, D, I can close those out. Those A, B, C, D are just lists of projects that I've been grabbing from. So I will hide them there. There we go. So. What A, B, C, D are the list of projects for their original CNA, CIP. What I was doing was just grabbing them and see where they fell in the years. So we're here, FY 25, this is the project that we're doing right now. Then we call out, my projects that I call out, crack fill, seal coat at AMS, elevator cab rehab at AMS, which is not a lot, it's just part of the interior for that amount. Multi-purpose room roof is starting to come up by next summer over at Clark School. Exterior walls and emergency lights, I have us putting money into Clark School over there. So I met with a vendor, I'm waiting on a cost for a roof. For just the NPR section, I should receive that any day. Exterior walls is just us going through the siding, and it's the T111, if you look at it, it's like that lined plywood, that's the front of the building.
And what we're gonna replace it with?
It's just upkeep, John, it's just maintenance, if
Okay.
it's rotted, we're gonna replace it with a new piece of board, if it needs to come off completely, we can put the new, just vinyl board, I know on the
Yes,
backside. Backside, good example is the backside used to be all shingled, plastic shingled, they used it as a ball wall, so it looked like somebody just threw 500 balls at the building.
Okay.
We changed it to just the vinyl plank, so now they have a ball wall. This is where I'm getting into EEI's number, is I call out roof C2 interior C renovations. Classroom 7 through 10, 16 through 17, and 27 through 30, those are the rooms that it affects. Because we're at 1.653 now with this project, I have us at 1.8, but obviously EEI needs to confirm that number for us. The
What
big
year is that?
this summer, we skip a summer, so next summer we would be doing these smaller projects.
Okay.
And then we would go into this bigger project the following summer, so
Because-
this would be 2 years.
Because we don't have
Because we
the
don't have the
money in
money.
December.
Yeah, we'll go over the funding plan.
We need
after
the
go
money
over-
in December to spend it in the summer.
Yes, and that's where these numbers come into, so. These numbers up here, just real quick, this is the starting balance, the proposed contribution, the balance after the contribution. Cost of the project for this entire year, and then it says the end of the year balance, and then each year, this end of the year balance becomes the starting balance of the following year. This here is a note that I'll turn over to Amy and Steve to talk about, is we have 675 as the contribution. I had that at 675, but as we started looking into timelines, December approval. We were not meeting this by December approval, we were meeting this by the following year's,
If it was
Contra-
available.
if it was available contribution. So although this was 675, we added an additional 400,000 there, highlighted as a discussion. And that's how we're able to complete this year. 300,000 was our minimum that we're trying to keep per building. We're so much here because of the planned projects coming in the future. This 100,000 is not $100,000 worth of work. It's what I did with this here. It's taking this 100,000 and breaking it down through A through D into smaller projects that happen that year. This 100,000 is only to tell me, Roger, you're not gonna spend more than 100,000 this year. It may be a $100,000 project or multiple adding up to that point. And then this is my imperfection, I just need to drag these down. I have this next phase going to 1.6. Again, I'm waiting for EEI's numbers to just make these final. What I'll do is I ask EEI, give me a number as if you're going to build it this year, and then I'll add my inflation to that to get us to where we need to be. So. There's a lot of work that I still need to do here, just defining the projects. But where I said I have the first 3 years done, I feel confident about the first 3 years. Clark's roof, if you look at it from the tennis court side, it's just starting to fade. The shingles are really bad. It is not leaking at this time. This is us just being proactive and replacing it before it leaks. The other side is not the same roof line it was done before. You have preschool area. That is a newer roof than the NPR section. So that's why I'm looking at NPR section. Crack fill and seal coating, that just, it's upkeep of the parking lot, that's important there that we do that, we have cracking that's happening, with that cracking, water gets underneath there, it ends up lifting the pavement with it freezing, just it's heating and freezing over time, so crack fill is just upkeep of our parking lots to extend their life until we need to actually pave them in the future. Elevator cab is just, it's just elevator cab maintenance, it's just redoing the flooring in there, changing the walls, maybe changing the lighting, that's minimum. And then emergency lights is just going through, making sure that we have new emergency lights, that the batteries are working for battery replacement, anything like that. Changing the heads as well. FY 28 for me is, I start picking up parts of Wilkins. I don't know where we are with Wilkins these next couple of years, but if we're nowhere, Wilkins needs to start getting picked up. Wilkins needs to start getting picked up with little things like crack fill and seal coating. I say little things, but that's a $50,000 cost, just because every year we have the rec go through, we're having that cracking pavement coming up happening now. And we've all said, we're not gonna put $30,000 into Wilkins crack fill seal coating for the last 3 years, because we're all anticipating a project happening. So that's kind of where I'm at, it's a work in progress for me.
And then Roger, the 1.6, which section of the roof?
The 1.6, I have that as, that for me is probably either, depending on where EEI's numbers come in, I dropped to 1.6 to look at us, is that the special wing, with the removal of, with the makerspace area, the 2 art rooms, the computer labs, the IT room, the kitchen area. I have that at 1.6 because that's a 1 level compared to a 2 level, so I feel like there's definitely savings there. But that's the 1974 portion of it too.
What's the
But
one?
that's AMS then, right?
This
The
is all
1.6.
Yeah, this, please ignore.
It's on a park line.
It does because,
He just hasn't moved it down.
yeah, this needs to
Yeah.
drop down. This will be here
Okay.
with AMS over here. Again, this is my imperfection. It's not Clark, it's AMS.
Gotcha, thanks.
So those are the next 2 big.
What's the
chunks of
1.8, which section?
1.8, we have that as being.
Oh,
it's-
C2, I see it.
Yeah,
Yep,
yes,
thank you.
that's like special services
Yep.
area, really.
So remember when, and bringing EI back in would be a good thing. EEI had a base bid.
Yep.
And then they had options, and I think you, for the near term, you focus on the base bid. And banging the base bid stuff out, and then you wanna talk about the other financing options. This is pay as you go. This is what we've done. This is the model that we use for the first phase 1, which was little, phase 2, which is big.
Yep.
But you wanna talk about the other,
Page and this, so.
Excuse me, but before you start, I just wanna make sure, do we have anything else from Roger, because he's leaving in like 8 minutes.
No, I'm good, that's
You
it.
good?
Yeah,
You're good, okay.
So. So in this draft, given the, loose numbers that we have for the roof project, we kept the funding level for the most part until we get a little bit later. But for what we're looking at, we've kept that at 675. That would be put on as a warrant to come from unassigned fund balance if available. So going back to what Steve was saying, that works except for the next roof project where we would not have the funds available in December to be able to commit to that next phase. So we would, the only way to be able to fund the next phase in FY 27 is to add an additional 400,000. And the best way to do that would be just a separate warrant article for 400,000 through taxation. Because it would be irresponsible to say that we're gonna have $1 million in just this out of fund balance.
but you could put it in the budget.
Or you could put it in the
You
budget.
could put
You
400
could put it in the
grand,
budget or a separate warrant.
either one of those, but it's from, the key
Yeah.
point that Amy said is this is from taxation, not fund balance.
But and you're still assuming that we do but we would still,
We're gonna keep
okay,
it
so we put the
675.
400, Thank you. If we put the 400,000 in the budget, for example.
Yep.
We would still need the contribution to the,
Yeah, we're keeping that.
any unassigned fund balance. in that.
Yep,
So if you put it on a warrant, no means no.
Right.
Which means you put it in the budget, no means cut out other play, you know, more
Sure,
flexibility.
right.
Either way, it's taxation is the most important. thing.
so this is the draft plan for a pay-as-you-go option. The other things to consider would be the lease option that EEI spoke about, and then the other option is to do a bond and do the whole thing.
And then,
Considering also that the board has decided to put forth the building project, so.
and the lease option expires in 2 years because of legislation. So the lease option is perfectly legal under statute today. It requires a 50+1 vote to manage the lease. But that's being sunset, I think 2 years.
Okay.
I think it's 2, don't quote me,
I feel like you're right on that.
Yeah.
but it's sunset. And so
Only 50, Roger? 50%?
for a lease, it's 50+1.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
not a super majority.
or you go the traditional route of a
For a
bond.
bond. Yeah,
And what you gotta, and this is a longer conversation. That what you have to be wary about is how much work can you do in 10 weeks? And if you bond it, you don't typically wanna pay interest on a bond that you can't do in 10 weeks. So that's something to think about, or multiple bonds or ladder, just how you finance this, the pay as you go for the base bid. We're as watertight as we've been in a while, right? This is working. And as Amy just said, asking for, you know, Wilkins plus in a bond versus pay as you go is obviously it's a different, all these are factors in. But there is a sense of urgency if the board, the building grounds where the board has a sense of for the lease option. Because that will go away. And I wrote a letter to the Senate committee advocating to keep the lease option because I worked in it multiple districts. But it wasn't, obviously, it wasn't, well, it was a little bit successful because it didn't kill it right away. But it is going away. You won't have that option in 2 years.
So when we talk about the pay as you go, this is stuff we'd be seeing when you start budgeting for the next cycle. So we'll be looking at that, the board will have to make that decision
yes, so,
before, they'll be making that decision to go on the warrant article.
yep,
next
so there'll be
March.
multiple warrant articles,
Okay.
obviously, there's the budget, then there would be, a warrant article. To put funds into the capital reserve out of unassigned fund balance for 675, and then a decision if the board wants to include an additional sum for the roof in the budget, or if the board wants to put forth a separate warrant article for the additional funds that would be needed to be able to fund the next phase of the roof in FY 27.
And what Roger and Amy are building out. Is you will be able to go to the community and say, if we stick with this plan, you will see exactly what it's gonna, well, not exactly, but absent escalation.
Right,
You'll see what it's gonna take to do base bid over the next 6 years. Every other year for the next 6 years, 400 grand plus fund balance probably gets it done.
probably,
FY 34, we balance out at 450,000 a year, that's where I'm able to get caught up. And I have my number at 450, but FY 34 is 450 and then it stays 450.
Greg, did you have something?
Yeah, the other way we could fund this is we could have a voluntary fund we can contribute and have multi-year contributions. My understanding is we need a warrant article to create that fund, is that correct?
a warrant article to create,
I wanna have a fund where
A
people that
separate fund.
support $400,000 in 27 can take 3 years and add up that money, so we don't need any taxation at all. But my understanding from you is that we couldn't just accept those donations now because there's no vehicle put them in that's multi-year.
that's correct,
So
yeah.
to do that, we would need to, we'd have a bond, we'd have a warrant article. That would create that fund that would permit a multi-year savings account for the purpose of like building maintenance or building repair, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be really nice to have, I think, for the residents, because then people that would support this could contribute, and people that don't support it wouldn't have to, wouldn't be as susceptible to a 50%, 60% voters. We could just do it with people that want to want to contribute. So I wonder if this board, this committee would like to recommend to the school board that they put such a warrant article on the agenda so that we can discuss the options that would not require taxation to fund buildings.
I had a conversation with Steve, about not having donation type funds fund what is the taxpayer responsibility. So in my thought, like the roof is, no question, that is the taxpayer's responsibility to fund. If we wanted to make like a pretty entrance with tile mosaics, that's not necessarily a taxpayer thing, because that's kind of an option. So I don't know, do I understand that correctly, Steve?
Yeah, all the foundations and all the opportunities for voluntary contribution. To districts that I've worked with and researched, the Bedford one, the Bow one, the Hopkinton one. The Skaneateles, New York, I don't know how to say that, but they have. That was one of the guidance, it was always about additional, it was about costs that weren't fair to pass on to the taxpayer. It was for the supplemental things, not the supplanting of the original responsibility to the community,
Okay.
but that's just the philosophy of every foundation that I've researched. Is not to supplant the taxpayer's responsibility, which would be bricks, mortar, curriculum, there's certain things.
Right.
By the minimum standards, the state law says are required by community or state. That doesn't mean you couldn't do it. I'm just telling you my experience. Foundations and volunteers, like I wouldn't enjoy in Bow donating to the roof.
Right.
Because I believe every taxpayer's responsibility. That's my personal belief. But I have donated to foundations
Right.
for additional things beyond the public.
Right.
thing.
And we follow that same policy for PTA and PTSA. We don't fund, you need a new security system. We're not funding that, but you want curriculum enrichment, you want the circus for third grade. It's outside of the regular curriculum that's required, but we've raised money because that's a nice to have. So, I don't know, should we put this on an agenda to talk about in the future? I'm not ready to make a motion.
Recommendation now to, yeah, we can talk about next time.
Yeah.
I would like to get to a
Thank
vote.
you, Roger.
So while we're on this topic, I would like to get this to a vote from our committee to either recommend the school board and take it up or not.
And get us like has this happened in the past?
It
Like,
doesn't matter,
is there a-
we can leave,
You know,
let's get a leave.
but I would like to see that, like, I'd like to see what the precedent.
Okay, well,
was.
I don't wanna look at it, I mean, I don't wanna necessarily have to always be someone that follows somebody
I'm
else.
just saying, looking at someone else who set a precedent that we could say, oh, we can model
Well,
after that, or point that.
Okay, so I think what Steve has said is that it has been done, it's a value system on saying, this
Wait, it
is,
has been done?
okay,
Has it?
okay, let me say this.
Not from base.
Let-
just
let
for
me-
supplement.
Supplements,
Let me
right,
see what I
so
heard.
not base.
Okay, but what separates a base from a supplemental is a personal value judgment.
No.
And Steve enunciated that quite clearly, that he believes that the roof is something that everyone should pay for. I'm saying, if we create a fund that allows everyone to contribute, it's adding more money to the system, you're bypassing all the failures we've been having with getting majority of voters on board. We still have, you can take money that want it, and you can put it towards large projects that span multiple years. We currently have no vehicle to do that. This doesn't cost the taxpayer one bit, it doesn't cost anybody anything, it's simply opening a vehicle that allows us to accept donations that we can spend over the years, and it divorces us from this critical dependency on these voters that we have a hard time convincing to do things that we want to have done. So it's been done for some parts of the building. I'm saying, let's allow people to raise money and contribute to things beyond just the things that have been done in the past.
John?
Is it possible to set up criteria where it can be tax deductible?
You can make tax deductible
Would-
donations to any, like
Would you-
PTA accepts tax donations and tax deductible donations.
You're asking if I donate to this new
No.
fund, would it be tax deductible?
Could we set up a criteria or even a platform for it?
You set up as a 401(c)(3), and that is you have tax status. So yeah, you set up your foundation as a 401(c)(3).
Would it have to be a foundation,
Let's close.
or that would be, a foundation would be a vehicle within the SAU?
I don't know.
The SAU
I know
itself is
I'm
a-
into this, so I'd have to-
Oh, okay.
See, I'm trying to say, if I'm gonna give $500,000, I would like somewhere where I can have that tax deductible off my income tax.
Right, understood. I
Okay.
guess we're talking about two different things, so one,
500, or even 500.
So in the interest of time, because it's already 5 after 12, I'm gonna put this on the next agenda. Greg, I'd like you to come with some more information, not just your thoughts, some like concrete, like, oh, this district did it and it worked. Just some kind of, maybe do some research on how people can donate to a school district. If we
Well,
just have to.
just
open a
remember,
fund.
we can only recommend.
that's all I'm trying to do. Should we let's have a motion next time?
No,
to
I'm not
recommend
committing
or
to a motion.
No, I'm
committing to a discussion.
suggesting that next time we have a motion next time, so I'll try to get us to a point we can say, we recommend the board look into it and create it, because we're not gonna do it here.
No.
No, we can't create
School
that
board.
here, but we're
So-
gonna have to talk about it before, I think, at least I'm not comfortable making a motion, probably in just one more discussion. About it, so.
Really?
Really?
Okay.
So
Okay.
let's put it on the next agenda and see
So,
where we go,
let me ask-
have just a discussion.
What would you need, what would you need to see?
Greg, as you just introduced this idea 5 minutes before the meeting ended, and I never.
I introduced this topic
Do
years
you have
ago,
a
actually.
problem with it, waiting till the next meeting to have the discussion, because we're already 6 minutes over? Can I just put it on the next agenda?
Okay, we started 20 minutes late, but
John,
okay.
do you have?
I just had a generic question, the school board can accept gifts in general, right?
Yes.
Can they accept gifts of cash, or would it only be?
The question is how, if you wanna give $100,000, what avenue do we have to carry that over to different fiscals?
That's the question. We can, we can accept your money now, and we can spend it this fiscal year. But what I'm trying to do is allow people to donate to things like this, so we see 27, we've got a $4,000 expense. Maybe we can't raise that in 1 year, but if we spend the next 3 years trying to raise that money, then we can show this community supports our schools. We don't need to have taxation, we don't need to have all the other forceful metrics to do it. And it's a positive way to sort of reflect on the values of this community support of the school system.
I just wanna get back to that real quick. By going just when you think about pay as you go, you do 2 years of construction escalation. That's the cost, that's the pay as you go lengthens the time to do this, which increases the construction cost escalation versus if you got $7,000 and 7 million, did it back to back. I just wanna make sure
Okay, yeah.
that that's factored in. The longer the project is, the higher the construction escalation is versus banging it.
Okay,
Just,
Makes
I'm
sense.
sorry, I didn't want to change, but I didn't want to lose that it's not perfect pay as you go. There is a little bit of headwind in that you're not doing it as quick. You with me?
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that was out there.
Just one clarifying question to Greg so that I can start wrapping my kind of mind around some of this before our next meeting. So are you suggesting, because I want to make sure that I'm clear on what you're suggesting, that we're funding maintenance of the roof through donations only?
No,
But we're not.
no, thanks for asking that question. What I'm suggesting is we open a fund that accepts some money, and that can augment whatever the tax base is, so. If,
So we would still need to go through this exercise of planning out how,
absolutely,
let's say
So-
that donation fund draws $100.
zero, yeah, right,
So we still need to go through this.
exactly.
You're not objecting
if-
to the.
No, not at
Okay, so
all.
This is just a.
I'm trying to
supplementary
allow us,
free
yes,
Type of situation.
allow us to accept money from all these people that support all these projects, and yet they can't get them passed on the March ballot. We shouldn't be so. Ignorant of like supporting, projects and funding that's available, because we don't have vehicle, to open the vehicle up, if it gets $100, if it gets $4,000. We can, it's something to spend, and it's just, it doesn't have to be anything, there's no downside to this.
Well, so what happened when we did the foundation in Hop, we had an annual school district meeting. People went up and said, if they want this, let the foundation do it. And it was hard, and the foundation, a representative from the foundation, Hopkinton Public Schools Foundation said, we will never, ever fund anything that the board, this is the foundation board believes is a foundational responsibility of the community. This is only for, because that was the concern. People get up there, you want this? Let the foundation, and it's harder to pass things if you rely on public donations for foundational things, because people can say, I'm gonna vote no, let the foundation do it. I'm gonna let no, and that's the only possible. And because no, the foundation, if you don't, and Hopkinton and Bedford and Bow and Skaneateles were very clear
Atlas.
about that, because they didn't want foundation to be funded through donations. They felt that was the responsibility of the community because it benefits the entire community, including your property values or the
Yeah.
education for your children.
Okay.
And it happened once. Scalar School District meeting stood up and said, hey, let's vote no against this if they want it. Let the people who want to give it to the foundation. And the foundation chair got up and said, no, we will not fund this. This is a base. We consider this a base. So there is that tension
Yeah.
between foundation and taxpayer responsibility that exists, especially if you're gonna advertise this is to pay for roofs. I'm just, we serve at the pleasure, but it is not all sugar plum and rainbows. Because it could be harder to pass, because now you give an avenue for someone to give money and say it's not my responsibility. And that's hard enough in New Hampshire, let's be honest, it's hard enough in New Hampshire because so much is local versus state, and I'll be quiet.
All right, so I'm gonna put this on the next agenda for another robust discussion. And I think we're all done for today. We did have a couple, talking about Wilkins portables. I think if the interim, that was the interim, if when we were doing construction, but Roger's not here, so I'll just move that forward to the next
Are
agenda.
we gonna put the Wilkins School on the meeting too?
Well, the board has already approved putting it on the ballot, so I guess
Oh, the
we're
board?
waiting for some direction. Is that the case?
Okay, all right.
To hear from them at what.
Let's put on the agenda for at least a minute discussion.
Oh, we can discuss and maybe, reach out to the board and ask.
And the option is, which one?
Well, I
We
think
voted to
it's
put the
same-
exact same
same one
plans
last.
last year,
Okay,
just
rebuild,
updated
Yes.
costing.
all right.
All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. We'll adjourn
Well
the
said.
meeting at 12:11.